Hello and welcome to the show. I am here on Forza 6 with a Porsche. Yes, the new expansion pack has came out yesterday that now gives us access to quite a large number of Porsches. And of course, the first thing to do with one of these is to max them out and see how they do around a rather damp Brands Hatch circuit. And I figured I'd start with the Porsche 944. Because this car can actually have a really rather interesting engine in it. I wasn't quite expecting this. However, the 944 can have the quad rotor. You can have the 5.7 litre V8 or the other 2.6 i6, but you can have the quad rotor, and that's what we're going to go for in this car. We shall make much a glorious noise from the Porsche. Of course, we're going to be wanting any bits of handling that we can get on the vehicle, so we'll be going for the aero parts. Oh, we don't have any silly wings. It's kind of fairly sensible-ish. Kind of just makes a tub on the back of the car. I wonder if we've got any silly 911 with wings. There may well be some of them around. It's always very hard to put a wing on a 911. They just don't really suit wings. There's no good place to fit them on there. Right, tyres. What are we going to be having? 265s on the front. That's pretty good going. This might not actually be as silly as some vehicles. Only 285s on the rear. I was kind of hoping with that size front that we might go a little larger on the back of the car, just to try and help with that traction. This might be a more sensible car. It's still going to be ridiculously overpowered and probably be slithering around all over the place, but slightly more sensible than the wheeling Lotus and so on. So this might actually stand a chance of going quickly. I have thought that about a few vehicles and been completely and utterly wrong. It could well be the case. It could be a horrendous mess to drive. Yeah, I kind of think that this might not be too bad. The quad rotor isn't the most powerful of engines. While it makes a glorious noise, it is, I believe, it'll come out at just under 800 horsepower, which of course is an awful lot of horsepower, but compared to some of the 1,000, almost 1,200 horsepower monsters that go around Brands Hatch, it's... yeah, we might have a vaguely-ish controllable Porsche on our hands, or we might not. It might also help that this is going to be slightly heavier than some of the other cars. It's not too ridiculously heavy. Oh dear, the game is being really, really slow to put parts on. It's having one of those days. Yes, I most definitely want... There we go. On the anti-roll bar, we're going to want the roll cage. It is 100 and so pounds added on to the weight, but dear God, it is really not happy. It's taking its sweet time to install stuff onto the car. £2,600. That's a fairly, it's a fairly good weight for keeping, sort of keeping some stability in the vehicle, but of course not compromising acceleration too much. We will take the restrictors out. 794 horsepower, 515 foot-pounds of torque in the Porsche. Will it be controllable, though? Of course, that is the big question. Of course, to test out the Porsche's controllability, we have come to the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, where it will get 6 laps to go as fast as possible. Our current leader is the Lancia Beta race car with a time of 49.8. I don't know whether we're quite going to be able to beat that. It could put up a good shout. There's also a weird texture going on with the bonnet. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Yeah, 49.8 has proved to be a mighty tough time to beat. The PI for the Lancia was only just at the very top of our class, so this does have higher PI. It's whether we're going to have the control, if we're going to have the composure and the grip and so on, to try and fight with the likes of the Lancia. The GT40's been the only thing that's really got particularly close, or certainly the rear-wheel drive cars anyway. This is so far feeling quite good. We've got, I mean, we're always going to have oversteer. When you have 800 horsepower going through the rear wheels of anything, you're going to have oversteer. It's going to be relatively easy to have the car sliding it around. It's certainly not the worst. It's nowhere near as bad as the Lotus. We have actually got to full throttle without spinning the wheels up, which is always nice. Can we do it out of this final corner? No, not quite. That is such a nasty turn. I mean, normally you don't think about it. Normally when you're driving Brands Hatch Indy, or even if you're driving it in the rain, most of the cars, certainly the cars that I tend to race, that's just not a corner you think about, that you worry about. In these, it is probably one of the most difficult parts of the track, I think. And it's normally not really a thing. It's just trying to stop these cars from bursting into wheel spin and going sideways there is a real pain. We also have a bit of understeer from the 944. Not very many of the silly car builds. We have seen it before. Not very many of them tend... Understeer never really was not very often noticeable as a problem, because the main issue is that, well, they do this sort of thing a lot, and that kind of takes over from the understeer. There is a little bit of it in this car, but it's not too bad. Certainly, we were really struggling getting in out of that final corner. 52.8 on our first flying lap, and it was quite a scruffy flying lap. I don't think we're going to be quite getting to the Lancia's time. Could put up a very good time though, if I can get everything together with this car. A bit like the RX-3, really. The RX-3, the last vehicle to go with the quad rotor. It's quite a nice car to drive, really. It's quite predictable. Yes, it's going to spin the wheels up, and yes, you can slide it around a lot if you want to. However, it's quite predictable with all of that, which is, to me, certainly is nice to have that. I know it's going to slide a little bit, but I can, on the most part, kind of find a way of controlling it. I'm trying short shifting down here to stop the car from there. It doesn't quite work. It does to an extent. What's straight line speed? Like 152 miles an hour. We found some time at a very shonky first sector though. That time out, I think I might have been short shifting too much. I mean, there's some cars that we've had where short shifting is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you do with it; it's still going to spin the wheels. The Lotus 11, for example, you could put that in whatever gear you wanted. It's still going to spin the wheels up regardless. This car does have enough traction so that short shifting does work quite well. I think I might keep it in third around there, and then we can go down here. Yeah, we have to have a little lift just to stop spinning those wheels up down that section, but then we're going to get it into these final corners. Yeah, third gear's pretty good. I might drop it down for this turn. Most 90% of the lap, don't actually have too many problems. It's here we've got to be so super careful. Don't go to full throttle just yet. There we go. We got to the full throttle. Ugh. We found some time. Now we're better to change gear, I think, going around that final corner. We're better just to have it in fourth, kind of coming towards it. Where can I find some time? We have been very consistent with our lap times. They're all in the 52s, pretty much. It's, can I get that little bit more? Can I jump it up into a 51 around here? Gonna have to try and be brave somewhere. Try and get on the throttle a little sooner. Try and carry more speed if we dare in the Porsche. It's relatively, again, we're talking relative speaking for the city car builds, relatively forgiving as well of the cars. If it do spin the wheels up, it doesn't kind of instantly try and kill you like we have seen with some vehicles. Right, go up to fourth perhaps here, and then kind of just boot it and hope. It's a really awkward corner. It's such an awkward turn to try and get right. I can't seem to find any more time around there. Running quite wide down towards the first corner. The curbs don't seem to be too bad. Again, I haven't had huge issues with this car. A bit like the RX-3 again. I can kind of place it where I want to. It's all about trying to get the power down onto the road. That's the big thing. The handling is not bad. I've pretty much got the hang of it very quickly. I don't know if it's like with the quad rotor or what it is, but yeah, can place it. We are absolutely flying this lap around. If I can somehow figure out how to take this final corner and keep up with a 7/10 up. I don't know where that time came from. I was pretty good through turn one, I will be honest, but that's a lot of time to suddenly find. Right, we're out of the final corner. It's bouncing and bumping. We're across the line. We found a lot of time on that final run, 51.4. That's quick. That is very quick. Around there, I have no idea where all of that time came from on that last lap, but the Porsche found quite a lot. Yeah, I really like it. I really like it very much, like the RX-3, despite being a very different vehicle. Yes, they do have the same engine, but very different vehicle, but kind of, yeah, quite similar. It is relatively easy to drive, relatively forgiving. Yeah, you can spin the wheels up, that's not a problem. But on the whole, for a silly car build, Yeah, pretty good. It's lap time. The 51.4 will put it into 8th place. It manages to beat the Willys Jeep. It's quicker than the Dodge Daytona and the Mercedes C63 AMG. However, it is a tenth of a second down on the Subaru Brat and Pontiac Firebird. Somehow, that BMW 1M that was awful to drive is half a second quicker than this. This is a much more fun car to drive than that 1M. That 1M was really not very nice to drive around here, but that 1M somehow got a stupid amount of speed. Around that, I would much prefer this Porsche, but there we go. Well, that was the Porsche around Brands Hatch. Now it is time to see how fast it will go in a straight line. Of course, that means bringing the Porsche to the Le Mans circuit. Just seeing the car here, perhaps. The paint I have gives the vehicle a matte bonnet, while the rest of the car is sort of normal paint. That might explain why the texture is a bit weird in the rain. Yeah, I mean, we're expecting half decent speed from the car. It's not going to be the fastest, certainly. We don't have the power, put simply. 223 miles an hour, maybe even up to 230 is not bad going, considering, yeah, 800 horsepower is quite a lot, but it's not the 1,200 that we have seen from some cars. So yeah, I think that would be pretty respectable speed, really, from the Porsche. We'll just have a little play with the gears, see if we can get that little bit more out of it. 232 miles an hour. Okay. I think that's pretty damn respectable, really. Okay, we'll see if we can manage that. Of course, the Le Mans Straight, while it is the longest straight that we have in the game to run the cars up to speed, it's not an infinitely long straight. So yeah, we might not quite reach that speed, and certainly we have seen more so on Forza 6 than previous Forzas. The cars not quite having enough space to get up to their top speed. Wasn't really a problem with the Lotus 11. That had much bigger issues. Oy, okay. May have got a little bit carried away. The back of the car may have wanted to lead the way ever so slightly through that first section. Let's not be doing that one again. Yeah, not quite as. I don't think it's quite as forgiving as the RX-3, perhaps. Yeah, there's something. Ooh. There's something with the bumpiness around there that the suspension doesn't quite like in the same way. So I suspect this one here might not be too fun. Be careful, kind of straighten the car up, cross the bumps, there we go. We're alright. And now we fire the Porsche down the straight. Now we have seen cars hitting 200 miles an hour before they get to that corner. As I said, this is not likely to be one of the very, very top fastest cars. Still has hit 208 miles an hour relatively quickly, and we continue to pull up to 220. I do fear, with the issues we had around the bumps of those first couple of corners, quite what we're going to do come the kink at the end of the straight. We've had many cars have issues there. All of the needles are off the end of the dials. In here, we're up to 229 miles an hour, 230. Come on, one more mile an hour. Can we do it, Porsche? Can we do it? No, we can't do 231. We were okay. Oh, no, we weren't. We're very unhappy. We were okay across the initial bump, and then the next bit the car got really unhappy, but it wasn't quite unhappy enough to spin me around or anything silly. And then brake, and then try and slow down, and we've come to a rest quite nice and safely. With the Porsche, yeah, I mean it's a decent straight line speed, certainly from the car, considering a fair bit down on power. It doesn't really like the bumps though. Maybe that was why we're having so many issues coming down the start-finish straight at Brands Hatch. It is surprisingly bumpy around that bit, so maybe that's why we were having the big sort of oversteer issues there, all of a sudden, kind of, whereas the rest of the track is relatively calm. Yeah, not quite a huge fan of the bumps. We did survive the kink at the end of the straight. It did get all very unhappy going actually around the corner. While you won't be able to notice it, the controller was buzzing away to kind of tell me that I didn't really have a huge amount of control of the car at that point. It was pretty much sort of bouncing around on its suspension. It just happened that I was pointing in the right direction at the time we took the corner, so it was okay. Doesn't like the bumps. However, pretty good fun car to drive. The speed is, again, pretty respectable. It goes into 13th place It is a mile an hour quicker than the Volvo 850R. It's quicker than the Alfa 75 and the Subaru Brat. It is a little bit down on, it's a mile an hour down, sorry, on the Challenger Hellcat 73 Skyline, the Peugeot 205, and a little bit down on the Lancia and Stratos and so on. Considering it is down on power though, that's perhaps not too surprising. It's 11 miles an hour quicker than the Mazda RX-3 that had the same engine. A pretty solid car. Overall, yeah, it's I like it. I do like it. And of course, we have that glorious rotary soundtrack. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.